more people are investigating Ben Carson's claims that decades ago he was approached by a gunman while he was at a Popeyes organization and that he directed the potential shooter to the cashier because, of course, the cashier is who the shooter really wanted. Well, when we reported that story, I made the argument that this isn't necessarily true and that he could be lying. If you don't remember, take a look at the video. But by the way, what he's saying there is so unrealistic because if someone, first of all, let me just get this out of the way. I think he's lying about the story.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
I think that he's completely making this up. I wouldn't be surprised if someone investigated it and found that he was lying. And you know how presidential elections work. Someone will investigate it, and I guarantee they're going to find that he's lying.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why I didn't think of that. See, I did think of it. Yeah, sure.
Well, guess what? Told you, because it turns out that new evidence indicates that he is likely lying. Now, this isn't hardcore evidence, but I'll give you the information that we have and you can judge for yourselves.
And just so here's what we mean by hardcore evidence. There's no camera footage of a robbery that didn't happen.
Right.
Right? So we can't disprove that. But all the circumstantial evidence leads to a fairly clear conclusion.
Yes. So Tommy Christopher from Mediaite looked into this a little bit, and even though he finds it objectionable that there are people who are even looking into this in the first place, he says that Ben Carson should produce his long-form Popeyes receipt, which is hilarious.
The whole article was hilarious.
It was. Now, he says there's also an emerging Ben Carson Popeyes truther movement suggesting that he made the whole thing up. Apparently,
that's who you are, Anna. You're a truther.
I guess I am.
You're a Popeyes truther.
I guess I am. Now, the Baltimore Police Department looked into this to see if they could find a police report, because usually when there's an armed robber at a Popeyes organization, they will file some sort of police report. And according to the Baltimore police chief, we searched for it, and based on the general statement, we have no report. Here's another thing to take into consideration. At the time that this allegedly happened, Ben Carson was a vegetarian. So it's a little interesting that he decided to go to a Popeyes. I mean, they have mashed potatoes. So.
Wonderful red beans and rice.
Right.
And apparently they didn't miss Ben Carson. And also biscuits, world's greatest biscuits. If I was a vegetarian, also I'd go to Popeyes, as Ben Carson calls it, but a little less likely. It makes the story a little questionable.
Yes.
Because he's deeply religious, Seventh-day Adventist, not supposed to eat meat. I know, because you're deeply religious, you wouldn't go and have the chicken at a Popeyes, right?
I love this story. Mostly because I get to do the fortune teller thing that you do.
Okay, by the way, so Armstrong Williams is his advisor on the campaign, and he embellished the story further. He's like, he said people were panicking, but Ben Carson calmed everybody down. Ben Carson didn't even say that, just making some further stuff up. And he was very confident in talking the guy through, and the guy listened to him. But no, he told the guy, even in Ben Carson's version of the story, go rob someone else.
Yeah.
And even in Ben Carson's version of the story, and this is why I'm mad at myself that I didn't pick it up and you did, right? He says, the guy came to me first, and then I told him, no, you want the guy behind the cash register. Really? Okay, so now you're telling me a robber comes in and he's like, he can't tell who's behind the cash register?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the most damning part of all of this, right? Because an armed robber comes in to steal the money, right? He's going to go straight for the cashier. Why would he go straight for someone waiting in line?
Right, and if he did go to the guy waiting in line, he did it to get his wallet. It wasn't like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Who has all the money for this organization?
It's not.
Right.
He's
so
lying.
That's a crazy part of the story. Then he says, the guy stuck the gun in my ribs, but I wasn't scared at all because I knew his purpose there was to rob the place. Yeah, but if a strung out dude is robbing a place, his purpose could be to rob Popeyes, as you call it, but he could also rob you, or he could just shoot you because he's got a gun.
Right.
But Ben Carson is way too calm for that. And he's like, let me direct you to the right place. Please shoot that guy and get his money instead.
The incredible thing is, he told that story to make a point about gun control and how it's unnecessary, right? And even if that story was 100% true, it hurts him more than helps him because he redirected a shooter to a cashier.
Yeah.
Don't mess with me, mess with the cashier. Like, come on.
He thinks that helps him. He's crazy, man. And by the way, Armstrong Williams' involvement in the campaign, his deep involvement, tells you exactly what it's about. Armstrong Williams' job for the Republicans is to find the 6 African Americans in the country who are still Republican and then build them up through the media. Like, it's Dr. Ben Carson! He's a Republican African American, right? And they do, this little show, and then the whole point is not for Ben Carson to win. It's so that Republicans say, see, we have black people on our side. And they also say the problem is black people.